Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're setting out on an absolutely mind-bending journey. We're going to try and bridge a gap that has literally stumped scientists for decades. I mean, how exactly do you connect the cold, hard math of quantum physics with the very real, vivid warmth of human consciousness? Let's get right into it.
Let's kick things off with the ultimate question, right? How does the mechanical clockwork of the universe actually produce the feeling of being alive? Think about it. Our brains are just made of atoms, and atoms, well, they don't have feelings. So where does the actual visceral experience of a beautiful sunset or a really sharp pain, where does that actually come from? To wrap our heads around this, we've got to look at two massive, glaring failures in modern science. On one side, we have the measurement problem in physics. That's the total inability to explain how a single concrete reality crystallizes out of endless quantum possibilities. And then, on the flip side, we've got the hard problem in neuroscience. Sure, we can map the brain's wiring perfectly, but we literally cannot physically locate subjective experience. Both of these fields are missing an absolutely crucial link.
So, to track down that missing link, here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the two great mysteries, dive down into the microseed, rev up the meso engine, and explore the macro experience. Then we'll check out the biological sandbox, and finally, expand physicalism. Basically, we are following a fundamental unit of meaning on an epic hero's journey.
Okay, Section 1. Two great scientific mysteries. Bridging the unbridgeable. Just to grasp the sheer scale of the journey we're going on, take a look at this hierarchy of time. We have to zoom way down to the sub-picosecond range. We're talking less than a trillionth of a second, which is where a microscopic geometric twist is actually born. From there, we scale up to the microsecond meso level, where it gets amplified, before we finally land in the millisecond macro reality of our everyday brainwaves. It's wild.
Moving right along to Section 2, micro, the meaning seed, the birth of the qualia atom.
Plunging down to that sub-picosecond level, we really have to completely upgrade our concept of information. Now, traditional tech relies on fragile zeros and ones, right? Syntactic bits that are easily shattered by noise. But topological information theory introduces something totally groundbreaking: indestructible geometry that physically encodes meaning. We're talking about information mathematically armored by integers, which are known as Chern numbers. It's a real game changer.
Instead of just an arbitrary string of code, imagine information stored as an intrinsic geometric shape, kind of like a donut. And because it's protected by a whole integer, it's completely immune to biological noise. You simply can't smoothly deform a whole number. A 1 cannot just become a 1.001. It is mathematically locked in. So you might be wondering, how does this actually form inside your head? Well, when intense quantum gravity forces push a tiny, unstable system to its absolute limit, it doesn't just collapse randomly. No way. It snaps into the most robust shape possible in a noisy environment, which is this topological donut. This spontaneous fixation forms the qualia atom. That is literally the absolute smallest fundamental unit of conscious meaning.
All right, Section 3, meso, the amplification engine, the thermodynamic engine.
Now, this microscopic seed has to somehow survive the warm, wet, incredibly messy swamp of our brains. And to do that, it actually uses biological noise as an engine. It's constantly dumping heat and entropy into the environment just to anchor its meaning to reality. So the messiness isn't some bug destroying the system, it's the exact engine keeping the geometric order completely intact.
But, mere survival of this qualia atom isn't enough. The brain naturally operates right on the razor's edge between order and chaos. And because it sits on this highly sensitive knife edge, it triggers what we call the quantum butterfly effect.
Driven by the sheer complexity of the brain, this tiny geometric seed sets off a massive chain reaction. It exponentially diffuses and amplifies across neural networks in mere microseconds. It grows from this single isolated twist into a massive widespread condition. The geometry just spreads like wildfire. That brings us to Section 4, macro, shaping human experience, from geometry to reality.
Zooming way out to the millisecond macro scale, this amplified geometry finally becomes human experience through a process called downward causation. It essentially acts like a giant funnel. It takes all that wildly unpredictable neurofiring and forces it into a very specific, synchronized rhythm. The microscopic geometry is quite literally dictating the macroscopic reality.
And this gives us a direct physical explanation for our subjective feelings, our qualia.
A smooth, constant experience is encoded as a stable, continuous phase, forming what's called a limit cycle attractor. But a sharp, sudden pain? That is vastly different. It's an intense spike of noise that creates a topological defect, essentially shattering the stable cycle and violently forcing the system into utter chaos.
Think of static qualia, like, say, staring at the color red, as a smooth, protected circle that completely resists noise, giving us a nice, constant experience. On the flip side, the dynamic experience of a sharp pain is a violent, shattering topological defect. The physical reality of pain is literally the chaotic restructuring of geometric order right inside your head.
Moving on to Section 5, the biological sandbox, microtubules as topological insulators.
So, where exactly in our 98-degree wet biological brains does this incredibly delicate quantum geometry actually survive? Well, the answer lies deep inside our neurons, within these cylindrical structures called microtubules. They contain tiny pockets that naturally repel water, creating highly localized safe zones. These are perfectly primed biological sandboxes, evolved specifically to hold a topological twist safe from thermal chaos. Pretty amazing, right?
Finally, Section 6, expanding physicalism, rescuing free will.
All right, here is the ultimate philosophical payoff. Because this top-down geometry actually steers the physical firing of our neurons, meaning is not an illusion. Now, traditional physics says atoms dictate everything from the bottom up, but this framework suggests that your intent actually becomes a physical boundary condition that steers the ship. This completely rescues the concept of free will.
Take a second and let this sink in. Consciousness is not a bug in a cold universe. It is the universe utilizing thermodynamic dissipation to create, maintain, and amplify geometric meaning. It means we are absolutely not an accident, and we're not just passive observers. We are the universe's ultimate mechanism for generating robust, indestructible meaning out of absolute chaos.
I want to wrap up this explainer by challenging you to really consider how this unified physical theory changes your personal relationship with reality. If you are a topological engine, what is your intent actively shaping right now? I urge you to keep exploring these concepts because the intersection of quantum geometry and biology is really just beginning to unfold. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive.